What's going on, guys? Good morning, good morning. Another day, another sketch. Apologize, you probably hear my dog walking around. So today we're going to be doing a traditional eagle. So, you know the drill. I like to just go right into it. So, they usually have this like curved shape. We have the head over here, and the tail kind of comes out over here. I'm not sure what the angle is just yet, but something like that. And that might be too much. I don't know. We'll see. So let's get this wing going. Bam. Kind of curves like that, and then just comes right back down. And comes right into here, where the head kind of does its thing there. Bam. Okay, so we're starting to kind of figure this out here. And so there's that. And there's the tail right there. And what's always strange about traditional eagles to me is how they don't usually have like the belly showing in this sort of depiction of it. And so ideally, as I'm kind of looking at this, let's imagine that we're doing this on a forearm. So we'll probably need to scale this down just a little bit, but so like see how this is kind of how a forearm is shaped. It kind of comes out. And this is about the size of my forearm, I'd say. Okay, so now that we've kind of established that, now we've got to scale this thing down a little bit because we want this whole bird to fit in the forearm, so, okay. That's kind of cool, the way it makes that, like, that circle like that. And one thing that I'm kind of seeing about tattoos and stuff is, over time, all these little details are kind of gonna muddy up, I guess is the best way to put that. Like if you look in this lion here, you can just see that this is a Sailor Jerry done by Clover Alden over 10 years ago, and when they were an apprentice. But you can just see how everything spreads a little bit. So really what is most important when it comes to the design is the shape of the elements and how well it sort of accentuates the space that it's in. Okay, so that's not a bad start there. We want those to be at the same spot, and really the way this is looking is almost like the wings are coming up into the ditch of the arm, and I prefer that it's a little bit lower than that, but we'll figure that out. And then so for the last sort of part is this leg, and of course we'll get all that sort of fixed up later. And then we've got the foot coming down. Bam, bam. Okay. And then It's usually like another foot. Not sure how we're gonna do that. Maybe I need to make this a little bit more. No, that needs to all be going in the same flow. And then if that's the head right there and the beak, doing something like that, boom. Just have the foot coming out then. Maybe like that. And so now that we've done that, we need to start getting some of these other little things in. So, you know, like the wings are a little bit complex. Well, I like to make them a little bit complex because I like my work to have just a little bit more detail than some of the, you know, other sort of like traditional designs where it's very simplified. I like to simplify and then sort of bring it back up. So there's gonna be the head right there, and an eye will probably go right there, and this will be the beak. And so like you can see something looks off in the beak and how long it is perhaps. So all of that we will just sort of slowly adjust, you know, and that's why I like to use multiple pencils, because I go over it at least 3 times and make adjustments along the way and whatever. So yeah, like that looks like the eyes maybe more right there. Okay. And then so like we've got this wing comes up from right there, and I like to make the back look like something. So for this one we'll go kind of simple. We'll just do this like diamond pattern, some dots in there perhaps. Okay. And then let's see. And then so we'll start with this wing. Usually there's like the, I don't know what you call that. Whatever, it's just like the edge of the wing or the beginning of the wing, some shit like that. And then you've got one row, and let's make sure we're doing this correct. Yeah. Oh. So come in, and as they get closer, they kind of get more round. And then you come up over here, and the first 3 over here always have this like, I don't know what you call that. And I mean, those look a little bit fat, kind of like this third one better. So we'll have to go in with the red and clean that up. And then it kind of just does the same thing. As it gets closer to the body, it gets a little bit rounder, kind of folding up a little bit or whatever. And these can actually go a little bit more out, give it a little bit more oomph. Boom. Okay, we'll come back with the red and tune that up. And then the wing that's further away, that usually has like this back feather looking thing. I don't know how to explain it. It's the same thing you use for like fish scales and stuff. But yeah, it's this thing. Whatever you call this. And those usually have like their own little fill-in. Bam. Okay. And then you just go right into the rows once again. So same thing with these, I've got that. And just sort of kind of something like that. And then the thing about the tail is you want it to be coming from the back of the bird, not the back, whatever that might mean. But you want it to look like the bird is, you know, curved over like that. Wayne, if you heard my dog licking, that's exactly what that was, and I apologize for that. So, this is the tail coming down this way, and it goes behind the leg. And so to kind of give it a little like balance, I guess, I like to put this pattern over here. And so if you think about it too, like there's kind of a feather right here that's like, because it's curving sort of like that. Or actually, I'm sorry. It's not necessarily curving. Well, yeah, I guess it is curving if you really think about it. A bird in this position, their tail feathers will, instead of fanning like that, they'd probably curve a little bit more just from the compression of the body. So actually what we can do is, since we have that, we can really emphasize that with like same pattern or similar pattern, but it's just sort of like on the outside there, sort of emphasizing that. And then we've got like one row feathers, and then this like finishing feather. So these might be a little bit more square. Something like that. We'll figure that out when we get a little bit closer. And then we've got the leg. Put some feathers in there. And actually, we want it to look like it's reaching, so it's actually going to be a little bit more that. And the foot, we want it to kind of go like this. Just kind of draw that box just for reference. See? clean all this up, don't worry, don't worry. Sort of like that. It's too big, but it'll work for now. I actually want the back foot a little bit higher up to fill in some of that space. See how that kind of like fills that in? It's kind of nice. Okay. So, we can we got something to work with now, you know? Kind of got the basics in there. I think it's starting to look a little bit like an eagle. Hopefully you guys think the same. I mean, also, like I've said before, this is, I'm not copying people. You're seeing this live, I'm just kind of like doing my thing. Ooh. Get that focus back. And so I'm not expecting this to be perfect by any means. That's the point of the sketchbook, is to sort of like fail fast, make mistakes. So let's see. I'm gonna start with the head here. And I kind of like giving it that sort of chaotic fur. I'm not really the biggest fan of the like super distilled traditional where it's just like perfect, you know. I actually really like some of the older traditional works more than some of the new stuff because it's just a little bit more raw. It's like some of the new people it's like they're too good, which is awesome. It's just not what I'm capable of. I feel a little bit more like-minded, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I relate a little bit more to some of these old school guys that just kind of were out here doing their thing. Not trying to make a perfect image, just making some fucking badass tattoos and being a badass while you do it. I like that. Thank God we're gonna have a blue pencil at the end here because, I mean, one thing about me is I'm gonna make mistakes on mistakes. I'm just sort of like that in general. Just a man who's made many mistakes, and I learn from all of them. But I guess that's my preferred way of learning, is kind of stumbling through it. If you were to ask me, I'd say it's not my preferred way at all. But hey, it is what it is. It just seems to be sort of like my default mode is to just kind of get in there and learn as I go. And I'm trying to learn faster because it's really frustrating making mistakes. It's uncomfortable feeling like that's how you learn. And maybe if I could just make less mistakes, that would be awesome. Alright, so we're cleaning up the wings like that, looking clean. Got a little far with that. Okay, and then here we go. If you can see, they're rounding out, getting closer to this part here. They're rounding out, and then if there's anybody who is, let me say this. If one of you OGs come across my video, feedback is always wanted. I'm trying to get better. So, you know, if you want to tell me that my work sucks, feel free. It's well warranted, but I do ask that you give me some kind of advice. I'm not trying to, you know, take from anybody or disrespect this tradition by any means. I'm trying to be someone who can be trusted to carry the torch for you guys that came before me. So, you know, please, I do ask to help me be that guy. And, you know, like I said, this is something that I'm really just having to teach myself for right now. And I'm really hoping to find some kind of, like, I don't know what you'd call it, but next level teacher, someone, you know, I did my apprenticeship, that was great, but the learning never ends. And while this is really helpful and this is what I will continue doing, I would really like to find another teacher who is an expert, a master in this, and can, you know, help me hone my skills even more. And like I said, I just want to be another one of you guys that carries the torch and can be trusted and respected with that responsibility, because I've done the work, you know, and I've done it the right way. So you can see already how far we've come from the initial sketch thing that I did. There's still a few kinks to work out, like that's too far out, bring that in. Could round this out a little bit more. Face needs some work, it's okay. Apologize for my dog. Wayne, that's enough. Wayne. He's an itchy guy, so I appreciate you guys being patient. So, I think we want to do something kind of like this instead for up in here. And the leg, since and what's cool about doing your drawings this way is seeing what kind of ideas sort of pop up along the way. You know, like how I just did that. I wasn't really expecting to do that. Go lay down. Wayne, go lay down. Something like that is kind of cool looking. Starting to look like a traditional eagle. And then, let's see, then we've got the same thing going on up here. Okay, so looks like we can do our final drawing, which is awesome. Been waiting for this moment for a second now. Now the tail still looks really strange to me, and I'm not really sure what I should do to change that. I think I'm just gonna get rid of those scale things all together, and I'm gonna put them right here. Got that going there. Got that going there. That will be going like that. I might even put some more like that. So. Kind of like that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that looks great. That looks really good. Okay. So. Ooh, I fucked up that head bad. It's okay. And so one of the cool things about a sketchbook is the fact that even though this may not look so great right now, at some point someone is going to want an eagle in this spot, probably. And now I have something ready to go. And I can just, when that time comes, whip this thing out and tune it up one more, like final drawing, and that's it. I've saved a lot of time. And so when it comes to some of the sort of like traditional classics, I mean, I don't mind. Like at some point I want to be able to just draw this on to their skin right then and there. But until then, it would be pretty cool to have like a bunch of my own variations of these things, and I can just simply retrieve that and have them take a look at that. Just having stuff ready to go. I'm always ready. Whatever you want, I'm ready. That's how I want to be. I don't want you to feel like I have to take, a bunch of time to create a design when it's something as simple and as classic as this. I want to have these ready to go for you. You want to get a traditional eagle? Let's do it right now. Traditional snake? Let's do it right now. Because I want to have I can still make it custom. I can use this for multiple people and make little tiny adjustments per person so they can still feel like it was made just for them. And it was. But it was also based off of something I had prepared. I prepared for this moment. That's how I want to feel. It's like I knew that this time was going to come eventually. So building up, just waiting. Which I'm not too sure that a lot of newer artists are doing this. At least ones that I know. Memphis is a pretty small town, so I don't want to make any generalizations about what's going on in the rest of the world. But drawing on paper, especially when there's all these iPads around, it's easy to say, why would I do that? And that's exactly why I do it. I'm not here for what's easy. I'm not here for what everyone else is doing either. When people come to me, they see the way I work, they see the work that I do, I want them to recognize that I'm true to this. I'm not doing this for any other reason than the fact that this is just, it's an aspect of who I am as a person. You know, for this point in my life, I don't necessarily agree with some of the people that are like, this is all that I am and I would be nothing without this. I get that. But there is a lot more to you than what you do. However, what you do should be rooted in truth. And I think there's a lot of, especially right now in this industry, there's a lot of glitter and glam going on. You know, I actually sort of stumbled into this industry, I guess, like I do everything else. I was bartending for a while. I was getting real sick of it. And I was actually in school getting a marketing degree because, well, I got my degree in marketing. I majored in marketing, but I had a fine art minor. And first of all, I never really felt like I fit in with the art kids. We just didn't really mesh. Sold a lot of weed to them. But I didn't really understand them. No, I don't think they really understood me, which is fine. But one day, while I was bartending one weekend, there was a tattoo convention downtown, and one of my coworkers went and got a tattoo, and I have, since I turned 18, I've been getting tattoos. Pretty much only traditional work. I do have some not traditional pieces, but traditional was what caught my eye from the beginning. And so my coworker who got tattooed at the convention, she also is a collector of American traditional tattoo pieces. And she just asked me if I was going to go to the convention. And, well, I had no money to spend on a tattoo. So I told her no, but it sounds cool, and didn't think much of it. And then that same day, my mom texts me and says that she heard about the tattoo convention downtown, and she asked me if I was going, and it was $20 to get into the convention, and that was not $20 that I was willing to spend. So I told my mom that I wasn't going to do that, and she said, well, okay, let me preface with this. I had mentioned wanting to be a tattoo artist potentially, but it wasn't something that I really Wayne, I didn't really think too hard on it. I asked around, made some inquiries, but it just didn't really I knew how closed off it was, and I knew how, honestly, how shitty a lot of tattoo artists are as people. And so I had a lot of doubts about even pursuing tattooing, but I mentioned it because, like I said, I was getting my minor in fine art, and I've always been an artist. Reason I got my marketing degree was just because business school was a lot easier than art school. I could work in full time and take my classes online, and an art class, you got to be there. So with that being said, I told my mom that I wasn't really planning on going. There was nothing for me there, because my mind was on getting a tattoo. I thought that would be the only reason I would go. My mom said, well, I'll give you $20. I think you should go. So I went, and I'm walking around, and everybody's booked up. So I couldn't even get a tattoo, even if I could afford it. And I walked past the booth that had a sign that said now hiring. And I had heard of this shop. I'd seen it around. And so the owner was working on a client, and I just asked, hey man, what does that sign mean? What are you looking for? And it just so happened that I had pictures of all my artwork, which looked nothing like tattoo artwork, by the way. I had pictures of my artwork on my phone, and so I showed him, and next thing I know, I've got an apprenticeship. Now, my apprenticeship was not a traditional apprenticeship. I was not taught this style. It's a street shop. So I'm taught how to just kind of generally do what a customer wants. If you show me what you want, I can give you something as close to that as I can. But that's kind of what the job is, just a lot of names and stuff like that, and just learning how to operate a machine, which is great. I got thrown right into the wolves. People were coming, you know, we've got all kinds of characters that come into that shop because we're right next to a liquor store and a bus stop in the middle of Memphis. So we've got a lot of people coming straight out of jail. Had some homeless people who scraped together some money to get a tattoo. Pretty wild. But a lot of the places around Memphis at this point are like appointment only. And I follow a few people who apprentice at these shops. And it seems like they're actually getting the short end of the stick, because while it gives them more like creative control, I guess is the word you could use, they're not really getting their chops up. They're not really able to get in there and get their hands dirty, really, because they're just tattooing their friends until their friends' friends start showing up. And while that works, eventually, I guess, I don't know, I feel like because I had to just get in there and figure it out and keep doing that, because we've got walk-ins that need to be taken care of, I feel like I was able to kind of get my chops up a little bit quicker, which is really cool for me because I can actually like sustain, because I'm not just making money off my friends, I'm making money off of real clients. And since I'm getting my chops up like that, it gives me a little bit more freedom to do stuff like this, because I said so. So this is what we've got. This is our eagle for the day to fit a forearm. And I'm going to go ahead and date this. This is the 11th. Wow. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and I will be back soon with another video.